Date is the 9th of May 2020, the day after the 75th anniversary of VE Day, to commemorate World War II, the so-called victory of World War II that marked the killing, maiming and wounding of millions of Europeans. And I go to the Google UK homepage and I see this funny little doodle, so let's take a look at this. This is what Google UK chooses to promote the day after the 75th anniversary of VE Day. Frank Soo. So let's take a look. Frank Soo was an English professional football player and manager of mixed Chinese and English parentage. Well. They choose to promote this guy from obscurity because he was of Chinese heritage as well as English. He was the first player of Chinese origin to play in the English Football League and the first non-white player to represent England through an unofficial wartime matches. Well, firstly, he wasn't all non-white, was he? Because he was of English parentage too. Yet Wikipedia, that biased bastion encyclopedia, chooses to identify him as non-white. Seems a bit racist. But of course, we can see here that the agenda, cultural Marxist agenda, the day after the 75th anniversary of VE Day, kicks into gear, full swing. Google, its globalist corporation, decides that promoting Frank Soo on this day is somehow relevant. And clearly the agenda here is an attack, a Euro-phobic attack on European identity. To say, look, what are we meant to do? Are we meant to worship this guy because he was half Chinese? It's clear that the agenda here is an attack on our identity, on European identity. It's a cultural Marxist attack. That's exactly what it is. And so if we then look at the Twitter, the Frank Soo Foundation, who have been obviously in cahoots with Google to put this up as a Google Doodle. Google UK here, saying that of course, yes, he was in the Royal Air Force. Great. Right. So because he was in the Royal Air Force, what they're saying here is that, look, the immigrants helped out in the war as well. Well, again, why do they feel the need to say, well, look, some immigrants also fought in the war? In percentage terms, it was hardly anything. And this guy came back. Millions of Europeans died. Yet Google chooses to promote this guy as some sort of VE Day hero. Fine, he fought in the RAF, great. But why is it that Google chooses to promote this guy over all of the millions of Europeans that were basically slaughtered during that war? It's clear this is a cultural Marxist agenda. It's crystal clear. And then if we go up, we see the author of this, who wrote a book, a biography on Frank Soo, is one Susan Gardner. So what do we see on her Twitter page? Writer, social history, football, British fascism. Well. Suffolk, books, literature, town, history, . So What is this presumably English woman, although she looks of a certain extraction, what is her motivation in researching this book about an obscure half-Chinese footballer from the 50s or whatever it is, the 40s and 50s? What's the connection? What's her possible motivation for writing this book if it's not that she's Europhobic and in some way opposed to European identity? So, on her Twitter, she has a link to her blog, and we look at her blog, Those Who Will Not Be Drowned. Sounds a bit ideological. And then we go to the category section. What do we see? Racism, refugees, Judaism, homophobia. It's clear that she is a cultural Marxist. It's clear that she has some kind of agenda. Yet where does she live? England. Whatever her background, it's irrelevant. The fact is, she's a Europhobic racist. An anti-European, Europhobic, anti-white racist. Which is why she clearly spent all that time researching this guy, Frank Soo, and extracting him out of obscurity to say, look, this is the guy that you should be looking up to, this non-white immigrant. You know, the agenda is clear. And we have Google promoting this stuff constantly on their doodles. And I will be doing a bigger piece of research and video on this in this channel. This is exactly what this channel is for, is to expose this agenda. So if anyone knows, works for Google, or knows anything about this, about how they select their content, please comment, tell us all, because we're going to find out anyway. And we're going to expose all this to the light of consciousness so that everyone can know that this was the agenda that was pushed onto Western civilization. So like, share, subscribe, comment, please. Because we're going to be doing this constantly from here on in. We're not going to stop. If you want to check out my Twitter, it's ethnopluralist. And my agenda is to build this peaceful future in a new ethno-plural world order. This is real diversity, not the globalists who want to end diversity.